This past weekend, as Tennessee football returned to the practice field following spring break this past week, where some recruits were on hand over on the Hill this weekend. Austin Price, who were some of the noteworthy names on campus, and what was some of the chatter and the buzz leaving a football practice?
Well, obviously, we start with two of the biggest ones, right? Joel Wyatt. Tennessee continues to be in a good spot there. He called him top two. I still think Tennessee's the leader there privately, but we'll go off the top two stuff that he said. Tennessee's recruiting him to play on both, on defense really. But I mean, he can play at a number of different spots. He can play safety. He can play Leo, which is kind of where Tennessee's recruiting him at. He's been recruited by different schools for different positions on both sides of the ball. Just a really long, athletic kid. He's the number one athlete in the country by on three, out of Belt Buckle, Tennessee, down there, in Middle Tennessee, south of Nashville, and a good player. Xavier Griffin, the USC commit. Tennessee is deep in that one. He had a fantastic visit. Supposed to catch up with him in the next day or so, but by all accounts, Tennessee has made a real move there, and they're definitely in play for Xavier Griffin. I think Tennessee's done a great job with Keyshawn Stansel, defensive lineman out of the state of North Carolina. He's now been here 2 times, since late January, and the Vols have, definitely kind of positioned themselves to be a real player there. He loves Rodney Garner's honesty. He loves Coach Chop. Really like that one a lot. Emmanuel Ruffin, kid, big defensive tackle. He went here from a visit and then went to the Under Armour camp over in Nashville and was one of the top performers. And that's an interior defensive lineman.
And that's the one Tennessee offered in the last month or so, right?
Correct. That's right. Tennessee obviously has some ends there with Coach Chop down in the state of Alabama. And so they're trying to be a heavy player there. And obviously, he's been here a couple of times since the offer. And, he seems to be liking Tennessee a good amount. So, Tennessee will continue to have players come in. We've now reached the 1st of April. And that means, you're going to have Savion Hyder and some of those, the running backs and some of those, players coming in town. Hezekiah Harris, another kid out of the state of Alabama, is committed to Auburn. That Coach Chop has been leaning on really hard. He was here for a junior day back in January. He's going to be here again in the next week or so. So Tennessee's got a lot more players coming to campus over the next 2 weeks leading into the spring game.
AP, where are they with Leo Delaney?
That's an interesting one. It felt like kind of some of his stuff stalled out, back in the fall because this was hurt most of last season. But I mean, he's back on campus. I think Tennessee's still recruiting him actively, and we'll kind of see where things go from there.
So you mentioned, Hyder and some of these other guys. Obviously, I know you don't have a list in front of you, but some more big-time names expected to be in. You got 2 weeks left of spring practice. Which weekend do you think I would assume the orange and white game weekend will be bigger, but 2 more opportunities really to get a lot of guys on campus this weekend and next weekend.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be just weekends, Eric. I mean, kids are taking active visits. I mean, some kids are on spring break this week. Not everybody takes a spring break in the first week of March or the second week of March or the third week of March. Other states take them the last week of March, first week of April. So you're going to have potentially some kids rolling here in the next couple of days for practice. Obviously, Tennessee had the scrimmage last night, and then they've got practice coming up on Wednesday and then Saturday again. So it doesn't have to be weekends. They're always poised to have players on campus, including Graham Simpson, who will be here, the 2028 quarterback from Martin Westview. He will be here tomorrow for Wednesday's practice.
Well, and there's a reason Tennessee practices on Saturday for 3 straight weeks, right?
No doubt.
You got 2 Saturday practices in the orange and white game. That's all centered around recruiting as a part of why you do that. You're trying to take full advantage of that. And so, well, it'll be interesting to see where Simpson is and where that recruitment goes. Obviously, his brother is at Alabama. Everybody knows, the recruitment that Ty had. Josh Heupel had just been here. Graham's putting up huge numbers at Tennessee or at Martin Westview as a young player. So that one's going to be fun to watch over the next few years. A long ways to the finish line there, but that one's going to be interesting.
It is, and Tennessee's yet to offer. Could that come tomorrow? I guess potentially. But I mean, you're right. I mean, the numbers last year. I mean, he's 56 touchdowns and 1 interception. The 1 interception was against Alcoa in the state championship game. I mean, Alcoa moves up to 4A. Westview is in 3A still. You got Asa Barnes, who's getting offered by a lot of places, Alabama, Ohio State, and several others, Florida State, Florida. That's the running back. They got Graham Simpson, who's going to be offered by anybody and everybody. I mean, you talk about set up to make a run the next 3 years in 3A in West Tennessee. They are.
Yeah, and like you said, it certainly doesn't hurt when you get Alcoa out of that division. Alcoa moves up, and Alcoa is still going to be just fine, in my opinion.
I don't know. Those Gibbs Eagles. Over.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how Graham develops physically. How much taller does he get?
Yeah.
How much does he fill out? What is it? I mean, he obviously mechanically can throw the football.
He throws it better than Ty at this current age.
Yeah, but what is that? How much further does that develop? I think and how much bigger does he get physically? It's going to be interesting to watch. I don't think anybody's going to be afraid of his size, but how much different does he become if there's another growth spurt in there and as his body fills out as well?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, again, I think depending on how much taller he gets will determine, like how many offers he ends up with. But I mean, listen, he's going to be offered by everybody on the earth, right? I mean, it's going to be a who's who, just because, again, he's well put together. Now, I do think it would help him if his brother plays well at Alabama this fall, just from a standpoint of if Ty doesn't play well, does it give schools pause on Graham? I don't know. I mean, but it shouldn't, but you know how coaches are. I mean, these are same group of coaches that talk about ankle stiffness and bone density and all those things.
It's all important.
Coaches sometimes overthink it. Yeah, no doubt about it.
It's all important. All right, so plenty of Tennessee recruiting notes and everything coming over the next couple of weeks as spring practice continues. All that and more right here at Volquest.com.